For as long as anyone in the galaxy could remember, Earth was a quiet place. It sat at the edge of the stars, a small blue world wrapped in oceans and clouds, spinning silently while greater empires spoke with thunder and flame. To other civilizations, Earth was nothing more than a forgotten whisper. No vast fleets, no grand colonies, no voice in the halls of the Galactic Council. In the great gatherings of alien rulers, Earth was mentioned only as a joke. Diplomats laughed about the silent planet. Generals mocked the humans as a race of farmers, artists, and dreamers who hid behind their skies. Traders said humans would never last among the stars because they had no strength to defend their place. And so, Earth was left alone. Not respected, not feared, simply ignored. But silence is a strange thing. To the galaxy, it looked like weakness. To Earth, it was something else. It was patience. It was watching. It was waiting. Deep inside, their hearts, humans remembered pain. Their own history was filled with wars, with loss, with the price of arrogance. They had burned their own cities, broken their own nations, and learned how fragile life could be. Perhaps that was why Earth spoke so little. Words had destroyed them before. Pride had cost them everything once, and they had promised never to let it happen again. Still, the galaxy could not see this. From the outside, Earth was only quiet. Generations passed, and still no human fleet sailed beyond the nearby stars. While other empires built weapons the size of continents, Earth sent scientists, explorers, and artists. While alien armies paraded their strength in shining armor, humans painted, wrote, and dreamed. Their silence grew heavier with every passing year until it seemed as though they had forgotten how to speak at all. And yet, in every human eye there was a question, a spark, a hidden strength that no alien could measure. Children looked at the stars and asked, "Why do they laugh at us?" Mothers told their sons, "Silence does not mean weakness." Fathers reminded their daughters, "One day, Earth will answer." But no one knew when. No one knew how. In time, Earth became a myth in the wider galaxy, a world that refused to join wars, that turned away from councils that hid behind its silence. Alien historians wrote that humans were a fading people, too afraid to rise, too soft to matter. Still, in the shadows of Earth's oceans, in the dark side of the moon, and in shipyards, hidden where no eye could see, something was changing. Quiet hands worked in silence, just as the planet itself had always done. Metal was forged. Engines were tested. Weapons were built, not for show, not for pride, but for the day when silence would no longer be enough. But the galaxy laughed louder, with every year. In the grand chambers of the council, alien voices echoed with scorn. Humans are cowards. Earth is a broken world. They will never speak. Every insult was carried across the stars, and still Earth remained quiet. For many, the silence became unbearable. Refugees from other wars looked at Earth and begged them to rise. Young humans asked why their world hid when injustice spread across the stars. The answer was always the same: not yet. It was a hard answer to hear. It was a harder answer to believe. But the leaders of Earth understood something no one else did. When a storm is gathering, it does not roar. It waits in stillness. It builds in silence. And when it finally speaks, its voice is thunder. The galaxy had no idea. They thought Earth was powerless. They thought silence meant surrender. They did not know the truth. Earth was not silent because it was weak. Earth was silent because it was preparing. The galaxy had long mocked Earth, but mockery alone was not enough for the Qatari Empire. They were predators by nature, a race of warriors who thrived on conquest. To them, silence was not only weakness, it was an invitation. If a world did not roar back, then it deserved to be devoured. The Qatari had ruled their corner of the stars for centuries. Their fleets stretched from one horizon to the next, their war banners painted in fire. They had broken proud civilizations before. They had enslaved entire systems. To them, Earth was nothing but another stone waiting to be crushed under their boots. Their invasion began with whispers. Scouts were seen on the edge of Seoul, shadowing Earth's colonies. At first they only watched, but soon they struck. Human outposts on the frontier burned. Colonists screamed into the void for help. Their distress calls carried across the stars. The Qatari did not ask for surrender. They did not offer peace. They wanted obedience or silence forever. They sent messages to Earth filled with laughter. Speak, humans. Show us your voice. Beg for mercy if you wish to live. But Earth did not answer. Not a word. To the galaxy, this silence meant surrender. Alien diplomats whispered in the council that humans had accepted their fate, that Earth had finally bowed to the reality of power. They will not fight, they said. They never fight. Yet on Earth itself, the silence was heavy with grief. Families wept for colonies lost. Mothers clutched the names of their children, who would never come home. Fathers sat in silence, burning with anger they could not yet release. Refugees streamed into Earth's orbit, broken ships carrying broken people. Their voices filled every channel. Why do you not answer? Why do you stay quiet while we die? But Earth still did not speak. The Qatari grew bold. Their fleets pushed deeper, capturing stations, enslaving survivors, tearing apart cities among the stars. They called the humans cowards. They sent recordings of their laughter to every channel in Seoul. Their generals boasted that humanity would vanish within a year. One by one, the stars around Earth dimmed under Qatari fire. And still, Earth remained silent. Many humans hated their own leaders for it. Protests rose in hidden corners. Some cried for immediate war. Some begged for surrender, if only to survive. But the governments of Earth stayed still. They gave no speeches, no broadcasts, no promises. It felt like betrayal, it felt like abandonment. But there was something deeper beneath that silence, because in the shadows work continued. In hidden shipyards, engineers tightened bolts with shaking hands. Soldiers trained in underground bunkers. Strategists studied the Qatari movements. Every attack, every weakness, and in their eyes burned not fear but patience. The galaxy did not see this. To them, Earth was already lost. The council chambers rang with cruel laughter. The silent world will vanish, they said. Another weak species erased from the stars. But silence can be sharper than words. Silence can be the weight of thunder before the storm. The Qatari could not understand this. To them, war was pride. War was shouting. War was blood spilled for glory. But to humans, war was something else. War was survival. War was the memory of past scars carried across generations. Humanity knew the cost of war better than anyone in the galaxy. And that was why they did not rush. They waited. They let the Qatari believe the lie. They let the galaxy laugh louder. They let silence wrap around their grief like steel around fire. But grief does not stay quiet forever. Anger does not stay buried. Silence is only the beginning. And when the Qatari burned New Geneva, when millions of human voices were turned to ash in the span of a single night, the silence began to crack. The spark had been lit. New Geneva was supposed to be humanity's pride, a city among the stars, built on a shining world near the edge of Seoul's influence. It was filled with gardens, universities, libraries, and homes. Families from Earth had crossed the dark to build a brighter tomorrow there. For many, it was proof that humans could live as more than survivors. It was hope turned into stone and glass, but hope burns quickly under fire. When the Qatari came, they did not come to conquer. They came to erase. Their warships descended like storms, tearing through shields, breaking defenses in hours. Towers crumbled, streets ran with fire, families who had dreamed of peace screamed into the void. Refugees tried to flee in small ships, but the Qatari hunted them down, laughing as they destroyed escape pods filled with children. Billions across the galaxy watched. The invasion was broadcasted by the Qatari themselves. They wanted everyone to see the coward humans kneel. They wanted Earth to speak, even if only to beg. But no voice came. The city burned in silence. Millions died in the ashes of New Geneva, their cries swallowed by the stars. The survivors who escaped carried nothing but grief. They reached Earth, with trembling hands and broken hearts. They begged the leaders of humanity to answer, do something, speak, fight, anything. But Earth remained still. The galaxy erupted in cruel laughter. In the council halls, alien senators mocked openly. Look at the humans. They cannot even save their children. They hide behind silence, while their people burn. They will vanish and no one will remember their name. For the first time, even humanity began to believe it. Anger boiled in the hearts of young men and women, streets filled with protests. Soldiers demanded orders. Some whispered rebellion. Was silence really worth this much? Was patience worth so many lives? And yet Earth did not move. To many, it seemed like cowardice. But those closest to the truth knew better. Earth's leaders were watching. They were calculating. They were holding back a storm they had prepared for centuries. But to unleash it too soon would mean disaster. To wait too long would mean extinction. They balanced on a knife's edge, and the galaxy mistook it for weakness. But New Geneva changed everything. The images of burning children, of families crushed under alien fire, spread across every screen. The silence that had once been patience turned into something sharper. Grief hardened into rage. It was no longer a question of if humanity would answer. It was only a question of when. The Qatari, blinded by arrogance, pressed deeper. They sent mocking messages into Earth's orbit. Speak, humans. Scream. Cry. Show us you exist before we end you. And still, Earth gave them nothing. No words. No plea. No surrender. But silence is not empty. It has a weight. It has a heartbeat. It is the moment before thunder shakes the sky. In the hidden shipyards, the forges burned brighter. Engineers worked without sleep, their hands bleeding as they built machines no alien had ever seen. Soldiers trained in silence, their eyes set not on survival, but on vengeance. Commanders studied maps, tracing every weakness in the Qatari fleets, and in the hearts of every grieving human something ancient stirred. Something the galaxy had forgotten. Humanity's silence was not weakness, it was fury waiting to be born. The breaking point had come. The galaxy still laughed, blind to the storm they had summoned. The Qatari still celebrated, blind to the fire they had lit. But Earth's silence was no longer the silence of patience. It was the silence before the roar. And when humanity finally spoke, their voice would shake the stars. The Qatari thought they had broken Earth. After New Geneva's destruction, they believed humanity would finally bow its head. Their fleets hovered near the Sol system like vultures, waiting for silence to become surrender. But Earth was not broken. For months, the planet said nothing. No broadcast, no plea, no message of war or peace. To outsiders, it looked like the final gasp of a dying race. The Council of the Galaxy whispered that humans had no strength left. They would fade away like so many forgotten species before them. The Qatari generals laughed the loudest. They wanted to prove the humans were not even worthy of chains. So they sent their fleet closer, to Earth itself. It began with small patrols testing the defenses of the blue world. Their warships entered orbit, mocking humanity on every channel. You have no voice, they sneered. You are nothing but shadows. Speak before we erase you. And for the first time, Earth answered. The silence that had stretched for centuries cracked. The sky itself seemed to tremble. From the far side of the moon, enormous shapes began to move. At first they were shadows. Then the light of Sol caught them, revealing steel and fire. Colossal warships emerged from hidden shipyards carved deep into lunar rock. Their hulls were black, their armor thicker than anything the galaxy had seen. Their engines glowed like suns, silent and merciless. The Qatari froze. These ships had never been seen before. No one in the galaxy knew they existed. Earth had hidden them in plain sight, burying their true strength under silence and patience. But That was not all. From beneath Earth's oceans, the waters split as titans of iron rose. Submerged shipyards hidden for decades revealed fleets waiting in silence. Waves crashed against their hulls as they climbed into the sky, their weapons gleaming with cold fire. From forgotten deserts, launch bays opened. From mountains that had always seemed quiet, hidden hangars released wings of fighters that screamed into the heavens. Everywhere, Earth awakened. The people of the planet watched with tears in their eyes. For so long they had feared their leaders. Silence. For so long they had doubted. But now they saw the truth. Humanity had been waiting. Every year of quiet had been a year of preparation. Every insult, every wound, every loss had been fuel for the fire now rising above their skies. The galaxy watched in disbelief. The council chambers fell silent as the feeds came in. They had mocked the humans as cowards. They had called them weak. But what they saw now was not weakness. It was a storm. And at the center of that storm, Earth finally spoke. A single transmission was sent, carried across every channel, every frequency, every star. The voice was calm, heavy, and unshaken. You wanted our voice, listen well. The Qatari laughed nervously at first. They still believed their fleets could crush anything. But deep inside, fear had begun to coil in their hearts. They had wanted humans to speak, to prove their weakness. Instead, humans had spoken in a language the galaxy understood far too well. Power. The dreadnoughts of Earth took position, their weapons glowing, their engines humming like thunder. Thousands of ships, all forged in silence, stood ready in the dark, and every human who had lost someone, every refugee, every grieving soul, looked at the sky and whispered the same words. Finally, the awakening had come. The galaxy could no longer laugh. The Qatari could no longer mock. The silence was over. And soon the stars themselves would hear humanity's true voice. The galaxy had waited for centuries to hear Earth's voice. When it finally came, it was not a whisper. It was not even a shout. It was thunder. The Qatari fleet sat in Earth's orbit like hunters circling prey. They had grown used to silence, to helpless screams and begging voices from conquered worlds. They expected the same from humans. They expected tears and surrender. What they received was fire. The first human dreadnought moved into position, its black hull gleaming against the light of Sol. It was larger than anything the Qatari had ever seen. Along its sides, rows of railguns glowed, charging with energy that shook the void. Smaller escort ships swarmed around it, their engines burning with cold precision. A single transmission cut through the silence of space. Calm. Final. Unshakable. You wanted our voice. Listen well. Then, the sky tore apart. The dreadnought's first shot was like the roar of a god. A railgun round, moving faster than light itself, ripped through the Qatari flagship. Armor shattered. Fire bloomed. The laughter of the aliens turned into screams as their proud vessel broke apart into 1,000 burning fragments. The galaxy watched in disbelief. This was no desperate defense. This was not the weak flailing of a broken world. This was a storm unleashed after centuries of silence. Earth's fleets moved as one. Plasma cannons lit up the dark, burning holes through Qatari destroyers. Missiles streaked like falling stars, striking with deadly accuracy. Fighters poured from hidden carriers, weaving through enemy formations, cutting them down with ruthless speed. The Qatari tried to answer. Their ships fired everything they had, beams of energy and volleys of plasma crashing against human shields. But the defenses held. The new technology Earth had hidden for so long was stronger than anything the galaxy knew. One by one, the alien warships fell. Their confidence shattered with each explosion. Their roars of victory turned into cries of fear. The predators who had mocked humanity now fought like prey, desperate to survive. On Earth below, billions of humans watched the battle unfold in the sky. Families who had wept for New Geneva now stood with tears of pride. Refugees who had cursed, Earth's silence now whispered thanks with shaking voices. Every strike, every explosion, Every enemy ship destroyed was not just victory, it was justice. The galaxy, too, watched in silence. Across 1,000 worlds, beings of every kind stared at their screens in awe. For centuries they had mocked Earth's quiet. Now they saw the truth. Earth had never been weak. Earth had never been blind. Earth had simply been waiting for the right moment to speak, and now it spoke in fire. The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was decided in minutes. The Qatari, once so proud, were torn apart. Their commanders tried to flee, sending desperate calls for reinforcements, but Earth's fleets hunted them down. There would be no escape, no mercy. At last, the void fell still. The wreckage of the Qatari armada floated like broken bones across the stars. Fires burned in the dark, fading into silence once more. But this silence was different. This was not the silence of weakness. It was the silence after a storm, the silence that comes when the enemy is gone and only the survivors remain. The humans had spoken. Their voice was not made of words, but of thunder and flame. And every corner of the galaxy heard it. The message was clear. Earth was silent no longer. The wreckage of the Qatari fleet drifted like ghosts across the void. Flames still burned in the silence of space, and shattered hulls spun slowly, their pride broken forever. Where once the predators had laughed, now there was only fear and quiet. Earth had spoken, and the galaxy had listened. Across 1,000 worlds, the broadcasts replayed again and again. Billions of alien eyes watched in disbelief as human warships tore apart the fleet of a mighty empire. What they saw was not survival, it was dominance. What they heard was not weakness, it was power. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, silence fell heavier than stone. For centuries, those chambers had echoed with laughter at Earth's expense. Senators had mocked the quiet planet, dismissing it as a minor world with no future. But now, none dared to speak. The images of black dreadnoughts rising from the moon, of plasma storms tearing apart the Qatari flagship, filled every screen. Every leader in the galaxy understood the same truth. Earth had been hiding. And if this was what humanity had chosen to reveal, then what more could they still be keeping in the dark? Fear spread faster than fire. Empires that once mocked humans now held emergency meetings. Admirals whispered in panic. Generals questioned their defenses. Traders wondered if humanity would rise as conquerors now that they had shown their strength. Even the most arrogant rulers lowered their voices, remembering the simple message Earth had sent. You wanted our voice. Listen well. Auntie. Earth itself, the silence broke into something new. The streets that had once been filled with grief and doubt now overflowed with pride. Families who had mourned for New Geneva embraced one another, knowing their loved ones had not died in vain. Refugees from the colonies wept with relief, whispering prayers to the skies that had once seemed empty. For the first time, humanity stood together. For the first time, they were not silent out of patience, they were silent no more. Yet even in their triumph, the people of Earth understood the weight of what had happened. They had revealed their voice to the galaxy, and it was a voice of fire. No one would ever laugh at them again, but no one would ever forget the storm they had unleashed either. The line between respect and fear was thin, and humanity now stood on it. The Qatari Empire, once feared across the stars, was shattered. Their survivors limped away, broken and humiliated. Their arrogance had blinded them, and they had awakened a storm they could not control. Across their worlds, their people whispered in shame, knowing the predators had been devoured by the prey they mocked. The galaxy did not celebrate. The galaxy trembled, because if Earth could hide fleets for centuries, if Earth could build weapons no one had ever seen, then what else had they hidden? What secret still waited in the shadows of that blue planet? No one could answer. In the council chambers, one alien senator finally broke the silence. His voice was low, heavy with fear. We mistook their silence for weakness, he said. But silence can be the sharpest warning of all. No one disagreed. And so the galaxy watched Earth with new eyes. Some saw hope. a people who had endured mockery and still risen to defend themselves. Others saw danger, a storm that might one day sweep across every star, but one truth could no longer be denied. The silence was over. Humanity had spoken, and their voice would never be ignored again. The smoke of battle still lingered in orbit when Earth sent its final message. The wreckage of the Qatari fleet glowed faintly against the stars, a graveyard of twisted metal, drifting in silence. Fires burned on shattered hulls, and fragments of pride floated like broken crowns in the void. The predators who had once laughed at Earth had been silenced forever, and into that silence, humanity spoke. A broadcast was sent, across every channel, carried on every frequency, echoing through the stars. The words were simple, but they struck like thunder. We were silent because words are cheap. But when we speak in fire. Remember that. Billions across the galaxy heard those words. On distant worlds, alien children who had once repeated their parents' jokes about the quiet humans now sat wide-eyed with fear and awe. Traders paused in their journeys, replaying the message again and again. Generals clenched their fists, realizing that humanity was no longer an afterthought but a force that could reshape the balance of power. On Earth, the people stood together in unity they had never known before. For centuries, their silence had been mocked as weakness, and even they had doubted themselves. But now that silence was revealed for what it truly was. Strength. It was patience. It was preparation. And now, it was victory. Families lit candles for the fallen, their tears mingling with pride. Refugees returned home with hope burning in their hearts. The blue planet that had once been overlooked now stood tall among the stars. But pride was not the only emotion that filled humanity. There was also sorrow. For every ship that returned victorious, another had been lost. For every family that celebrated, another wept. The scars of New Geneva and countless colonies still cut deep. Humanity had won, but the cost was heavy. And perhaps that was why their final message was not a threat, not a promise of conquest, but a warning. Because humans knew the weight of silence, they knew the price of arrogance. They had lived through their own history of fire and war, and they carried those lessons into the stars. The galaxy did not know how to respond. Some rulers sent quiet messages of respect, offering peace and alliance. Others, shaken by fear, doubled their defenses, building fleets in desperate preparation. Yet all of them shared one truth. None dared laugh at Earth again. The name of the quiet planet spread like lightning, whispered in council chambers and shouted in marketplaces. Stories grew around humanity's hidden fleets, their secret shipyards, their sudden roar of vengeance. Some said Earth had only shown a fraction of its strength. Others believed they had unleashed all they had. No one knew which was true. And that uncertainty was more terrifying than any weapon. For the first time in history, Earth's silence was no longer ignored. It was respected. It was feared. It was remembered. Among the stars, silence had become a warning. When Earth chose not to speak, empires would hold their breath, wondering if thunder was waiting behind the quiet. And so, the story of humanity changed forever. No longer were they the forgotten dreamers of a blue world. No longer were they the butt of cruel laughter. They were the storm that had hidden in stillness, the fire that had been forged in patience. The galaxy had mocked Earth's silence, but they would never forget the day our warships spoke and their voice was fire.